The Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid, that was one of the vehicles you wanted to see because we are here at Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars with Thomas. We at Autogefühl want to increase our coverage on plug-in hybrids and fully electric vehicles. And so this one was one of the cars you want to see there. This review will also be about the Mitsubishi Outlander facelift because, it's both in one review. So no matter if you're just interested in the normal petrol engine or the diesel and want to go for the Outlander facelift that has been around for about a year now, or if you're especially interested in the plug-in hybrid variant, which will definitely be not such a sound, then you're really right here with the exterior, interior and driving experience electric way, of course. And we will also charge the car at the special charging stations and tell us our experiences about that. Now in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. With the facelift, the Mitsubishi Outlander got a new front face. It's forming one unit here overall now, and also those headlights that looked a little bit than those of the Range Rover, they've been removed and got a little bit thicker now overall, and a really chrome shiny face for this SUV, which has basically a classic SUV layout but shows then a contemporary face in the front. 4.65 meters or 15'3" is the total length of this vehicle, and as I said, a classic SUV layout, and I do expect that from an SUV in general because I also want to have a lot of space on the inside. Beginning with the Plus trim level, you also get bigger rims starting with 16, then in the higher trim level, as I said, also here 18-inch with a special two-color scheme, pretty attractive overall. That's a plug-in hybrid vehicle we see here with a special badge. Other than that, there aren't so many changes on the exterior in general. And you see here this classic layout also with a steep window line. And again, using of some chrome in the lower part and also at the lower part of the windows. Not at the higher part, just the lower part to frame that one in. And the tail lights also begin right here at the sides and then are drawn back all the way around. This cap here is, by the way, for the fuel. At the other side will be for the electric vehicle charging, and we will of course show you that with the fitting cables later on. Finally, the rear, also with the contemporary design with a chrome contrast. Nothing really spectacular, but overall I think they figured a nice styling for an SUV. Also with a special Outlander electric vehicle badge right here. There will be one disadvantage because the battery itself, its weight is about 200 kilograms, and depending on petrol or diesel engine, overall the vehicle is 150 to 350 kilograms heavier than the normal version, although they use some saving in weight here and there. This will lead to some disadvantages, but we'll also tell you a lot about the advantages of the electric drive very soon. Let's get inside. This is the car key. You can close or open it, and there's also the keyless entry function directly available with the Outlander plug-in hybrid. I can also show you closing it. Here it's closed, and then you have to press here to open it again, and also the mirrors flip out. Doors, closing sound is solid. The doors itself, they are, you know, very slim and light. Then the interior, from Zero equipment with the Outlander, you get some features already, like the keyless entry function we've shown you, the AC, climate control, and the standard one from the seats would be then, at the Great Combi, would then be leather red on the outside and cloth on the inside, and that's really a great combination. Actually, to be very exact, is the microfiber on the inside with the standard. So go for the standard equipment. Then in the higher trimmers, like the top trim level, I think this one should be a combination like leather red on the outside and real leather on the inside. You see that also it looks a little bit different. I think that one should be the faux leather, that's the genuine one. But you know, spare the animals as usual. There's a new steering wheel since the facelift for the Outlander. I think it moves it visually more towards the Mitsubishi Pajero and away from the smaller SUVs like the ASX or called also Outlander Sport. Shifting pedals, I will soon talk about those ones, of course, while driving, because they are here for the recuperation. Inside of the doors, glossy black it seems, but when you look in detail, it's more like a wooden surface underneath, but you will see that better on the inside. And here it should also be leather red. It's a nice door cover then here to have a little bit softer door cover, but here it's just black plastic. Here, that's what I meant with a little bit softer door cover from the inside. Storage spaces here, for example, for bigger bottles, the inside of the doors. You see not so much space is wasted here. Let's get inside. It's really a grown-up SUV, high seating position. And that's really comfortable also for tall drivers. Here we got the small panoramic roof. Not the biggest headroom here, especially when we got the panoramic roof inbuilt, but still okay. You know, I'm 1.86 m or 6'1". This upright seating position really helps you for the long-term drivability, and in the higher trim levels here, you can also adjust the seat electronically, putting it up higher in the rear. The electric engines are small ones. The motors, they are really loud. Like sounds a little bit cheap. Overall, the build quality we see here is, let's say, basically solid. It's really nothing special, especially when you look at all the buttons and stuff. It's rather ordinary. Cockpit overview. See, everything is kept rather basic, rather simple. There's not much of a design scheme to be seen. Those glossy black surfaces, I don't really like them. They collect fingerprints and also scratches. Other parts, for example, here they have this wooden structure underneath. If you look very closely, also at the lower middle console, there are also some storage spaces here for beverage holders or whatever you want to put there. Nice heated steering wheel is available for winter times. That's really great. 12-volt power supply. Then there's a special Outlander plug-in hybrid electric vehicle shifting lever. If you put in, for example, recuperation modes, we'll soon go into detail. Manual handbrake. Then here the armrest with storage underneath and another 12-volt power output, and USB supply is also hidden there. Normal glove box, sliding down very smoothly, that's nice. Also solid from the inside again. The steering wheel, as I said, has been updated, more fits to the bigger SUVs, and there are a lot of different instruments. We'll soon go into the detail about the electric drive. So overall, it's not really a pleasant experience when entering the interior. It's all just pretty ordinary, solid, but then again, it's the cheapest SUV plug-in hybrid on the market, and then maybe you also cannot expect that much. However, you know, the hybrid here comes already in the higher trim levels with more serial equipment, and it's already not that cheap anymore. For example, in Germany, a normal Outlander you can get about 20,000 euros plus something. Here you at least have 40,000 euros, taking the German price as a reference. Of course, then again with more equipment, but Mitsubishi says that if you take in account the equipment and stuff you get with it, that the hybrid vehicle would just be like 10% more expensive than the normal version due to the electric parts. That would actually not be that much then. At the steering wheel we have some handy buttons, for example to answer or decline the phone, and then also a special camera button here. When being in reverse gear, you see the rear view camera and the fake drone view from above. I'll show you that when we drive, but here also nice, then you have the front view camera. I will soon show you that in the infotainment system. Instruments, really interesting, because here when you recuperate, the arrow goes down into the charge area in electric mode. Eco in this green area is all the electric drive. Only when it's in the white area, then also the normal engine is on. You can watch it there. Here's the charging status. At the moment we are quite empty. We'll soon first charge the car, then start the driving, and later on charge the car again and show you on the right part the fuel. Then we can also change what we see here in the middle part. And see, I'll turn on the engine for that. So there it is. And then we can change it here, for example. See, I've mainly been driving this car in electric vehicle mode. There you can then see there's an arrow from the battery to the wheels when just the electric drive is available. This one here usually goes, the normal engine, to the battery with the arrow. That means because the engine is firstly loading the battery, and then only in some cases the engine goes directly to the wheels. I will tell you later about that in detail. Then what else interesting? Trip here, then the range that is left, for example, and we will increase that of course later again when we have the full charge. Here in the middle console you have the seat heating, for example, driver and co-driver seat, 2 levels. Then there's a AWD or AWD lock, so then you can really be sure always to have the always drive, and also you know, when you get some tricky off-road situations you can activate this differential lock. Then this special shifting lever for the plug-in hybrid vehicle, you can pull down for the recuperation modes. I will tell you more about that when we drive the car, and then like this for the normal drive mode, or like this for the reverse gear and also the rear view camera. Safe mode to hold the battery power, or charge to charge the battery with the electric, with the normal. Charge the electric drive with the petrol engine. I will also tell you more about that. For example, when I press it now, again, immediately the normal engine is activated. And then in the front there's a P symbol for the parking mode if you want to just stand still. Again, I will tell you all about these modes when we drive the car, that you can understand it. And there it is, the front view camera. You see the 3 in the front, there's a tractor pulling over right now, and when you have the fake drone from above, press this button as you again, then you can see the sides here, optional with the system of course. This is the front right part, for example, and you can also change it back. So really a nice system. And the rear view camera would be like this, rear view and fake drone view from above. In general about the system, well, see, you cannot really move around like in a smartphone that well. Reaction times are bad. Overall, the GPS is pretty weird. The whole system, it doesn't make sense with the buttons and the functions here. It's not really intuitive. All of the, for example, the energy information we can see here, it's not visually attractive, nor is it in some way intuitive. This is maybe the worst part of the car. The infotainment system is really rubbish. However, you can connect your phone. You know, here I got my iPhone 5 connected with Bluetooth for your USB sound, and also for Bluetooth sound, and also for the phone function. It works, and that's pretty much it with the infotainment system. I wouldn't use more about it. Then here, there's the eco mode. I will tell you more about that one. Helps you a little bit by saving some fuel. This one here, they can check when the vehicle is on, who is using the seat belts and who not. Also great. Quite often we have those beeping sounds. Those are quite annoying. Blah, blah, beep, beep, beep. Then the AC unit here for increasing the vents. Here again, always so many beeping sounds here. Yeah, I know that's the maximum temperature, but why having beeping sound? I don't know why. And turning off or on the total AC. And everything again pretty simple, and it's now just a solid build quality, nothing that is really any special. Underneath the hoods, of course, here with the hybrid vehicle, it's a little bit more special because, first of all, we have the 2-liter naturally aspirated engine, 120 horsepower. If you pick it just as a normal Outlander, it has 150 horsepower, and there would also be a 2.2-liter diesel available. Then this is where the first electric stuff also says plug-in hybrid EV, electric vehicle. This is that it really gets running and the electricity gets distributed. The rear battery is sitting very centrally placed in the car. We'll also take a hint for you there in the interior. By the way, the hybrid here has similar acceleration from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour or 0 to 60 miles an hour than the normal engines. That's a little bit more powerful because together they're again as powerful as the normal ones. And really interesting that in Europe, every second Outlander has been sold as the plug-in hybrid vehicle. That's really amazing, mainly, for example, due to the Netherlands and the UK, also due to the tax regulations, as then the hybrid is maybe not expensive more, maybe even cheaper due to some regulations. Might also have new impulses now with Germany also having some hybrid benefit, 3,000 euros, 4,000 for fully electric, 3,000 for hybrids. That's pretty much for hybrids. And as for the benefits, that might also change the model range here in Germany in favor of the plug-in version. Welcome to the driving part. Start here with this button. It's just slightly is not loaded, but everything else is so basically a fully loaded plug-in vehicle. And we'll also soon show you the loading station when we have finished with the driving. And the great thing is just when you have this plug-in hybrid that you're always starting silently, and especially when being in the city, it's really great. Reverse gear, shown you earlier. And just do it with the central automatic shifting lever. Then I have the rear view camera and same time the fake drone view from above. It's really nice to have it, especially when the vehicles are approaching also from behind or from the side. And then I can also see that I don't damage any of the alloys and stuff. And here, for example, a tricky situation, vehicle in front of us and behind us. I really have, beep, 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 beep. And, that's really some useful stuff. So, here again. See, I really have to ease it in the front and the back every time again. It's not easy with that vehicle here. That's because it's already quite long. But see, it's very good to have those electronic helpers. Oh, it's really exhausting. It's also quite hot today. But that's, the steering wheel, it does require some power. It's not the easiest steering wheel to turn. Let's take it that way. So we'll give you some EV information that you can also see that. And we're just running totally silently here. And in the front I can see, as I've shown you earlier in the detail, that just the battery is active to turn the wheels. If the main engine would be active, I would also see it here in the front. And on the left side, then the arrow goes up into this eco segment and goes back into the charging segment when I'm hammering the brakes. And there's really a lot to tell you about how this electric drive, this hybrid drive is really functioning. It's, in this case, let's say, rather complicated. Start here with a U-turn, and see, it's really great that it's so silent. And when you have more vehicles to choose from, I tend to just choose the electric vehicle because it's somehow cool to drive it. Here I'm just in the electric mode. We will try to be, as much in the electric mode as possible. In the front I can also look at some stats. At the moment I got 33 kilometers left, pure electric range. The maximum possible would be around like 45 kilometers, something like that. And I did test it, with going, almost 50 kilometers, and good part on the motorway. So that's, exhausting for the electric drive, 110 kilometers an hour against the wind. But it scored about 42 kilometers of pure electric reach, and that was, I think, a very good result. So you can trust on the gauges here the information you get. For example, 33 kilometers left of the hybrid drive. And for most people that are commuting to work a rather short way every day, this will be sufficient if you then can charge at home or at work or at a special charging station. We will also soon show you. So really keen on that. On the other hand, of course, if you're not driving the electric drive, then you carry around this electric technology. And if you're in the hybrid mode, then you carry around the normal engine. So that also has some disadvantages for the consumption. And this can really range from zero consumption, of course, just in the electric drive here, as we are right now, to if you're driving on the motorway, for example, and charge the car. Being on the motorway, the engine is charging the battery. You can also do that with some buttons here. There's a charging button and a save button. This charging button really loads the battery up that you can use it again in the city. The save button just holds it at the same loading level. Then the naturally aspirated engine here with 120 horsepower, 2 liters of displacement, can easily use up to 10 or 11 liters. And that's of course too much. It consumes less when it doesn't have to charge the battery. But that's the thing about the hybrid vehicle. On the other hand, you can say it has an advantage because you usually drive the electric drive in the city, and then maybe for a holiday trip you go with the normal petrol engines, for example. There would also be a 2.2 liter diesel available for the Outlander if you just go for the normal one, or the 2 liter naturally aspirated engine would not have 120 but 150 horsepower if you pick the normal one. But we are in a hybrid here right now, and I really enjoy the ride with just the electric stuff. Funny thing is, we've recently experienced it with a Mercedes GLC Coupe 350e. If you hammer the throttle pretty much there, then it goes quite fast that the vehicle is going into the petrol mode and combining both for a boost. Here it doesn't happen so fast, so even when I hammer the throttle, still first using the electric drive, and I really prefer that. And the good thing is, it's really great. I just have to hammer it a little bit more, then I immediately get a great acceleration. And that's also the thing about electric cars, because we're always wondering, CNG, so natural gas, why isn't it successful? Although it's the best for the environment at a given stage, because it's a refined technology, you don't have to invest so much energy in producing batteries and stuff. Well, CNG has not this coolness and fun factor. Mostly also the engines are not that powerful, but here the electric drives, they have a big fun factor. I think that's also a thing why this one here has more future, because it's really just fun to drive. Here, for example, also, well, I hear just a little bit from the electric drive. Everything else is silent, so that also helps you to have a more comfortable, silent feeling. And in general, you are more relaxed when driving an electric car, because you don't have this noise from the engine all the time. And you just think, why would you ever ride a vehicle again with the combustion engine? What's the matter? Why? That's, when you the longer you ride an electric vehicle, then you think that. And at the other hand, you see here, I just hammer the throttle a little bit, and again I got a good boost, and so this vehicle is also fun. I can also see the consumption here. So far I've driven this year, even our tests, just 97% on electric driving, and so the consumption of 100 kilometers is 1.5 liters, because the engine was most of the time really not running. That's really the key to the consumption here. So I can also see it in this, as long as I'm in the green eco area, and then when I'm now approaching the traffic light, I go on the brakes, and then the arrow goes down into the charging area. I see that I'm recuperating. Energy goes back to the battery. It doesn't go that fast, and there are now different possibilities to do that. And there are also different philosophies. First of all, I can use the central shifting lever, showed you in the interior, and I go with that one, pull it behind, and then go into the B mode. And then I see B3, for example, here, and press it again, B5. That's a way. I can also go back to the D mode then. So that's a way to very fastly go into the big recuperation mode. When I'm, for example, going downhill all the time, like maybe in the Alps region, and now for the next 10 minutes I'm going downhill. Then I don't have to use the brakes, just like an engine brake when you just shift down, like with a normal car. And it's also possible to control that one with the shifting pedals here. Funny thing is here, when you use the right pedal, then you have less recuperation. Using the left pedal, you have more recuperation. And I tend to go in the B0 mode, and that means no recuperation. And I try to let the car roll as long as possible. Here, for example, I know there's next traffic light coming. I just let the car roll, and then I see, it's red. I get on the brakes, and then I can charge again, recuperate. Because the brakes are first not applied by the rear brakes. First the recuperation is used, and then if more braking power is needed, then also the normal brakes apply. Strange thing here with the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid vehicle is when you hammer the brakes pretty hard and you look at the instruments, you see that then the charging is not like kept on the maximum level plus the normal brakes. It seems like the recuperation stops and then just the normal brakes are being used. And I'm really confused about it, why that's the case. And I think it's bad. Because with most vehicles, then you have like maximum recuperation plus then normal brakes if needed. Here it seems to be like when the vehicle says, oh, there needs to be hard braking, okay, then I cancel the recuperation. And I think that doesn't make sense. It's also different with the other electric vehicles. So that's, I think it's not so positive to me, which I observed here. Other than that, I'm really satisfied with the hybrid system we have here. So at the moment, I'll try to let the car roll as far as possible, because using the rolling energy you have makes more sense for the consumption than recuperating all the time if you just like going straight or maybe uphill. Again, the recuperation just makes sense when you're going down and want the car to brake, and maybe say, okay, I don't want to stand on the brake all the time. I let the recuperation also do this, slightly braking down the car almost automatically. So that's it for that. Funny thing is also when I'm in a normal D mode, then a slight recuperation is always active. So I lift my foot off the throttle, it gets slower. And then when I'm using the shifting pedal, it's set to be 0. Then again, for example, we're going downhill now. You see speed is not only kept, it's also increased. As soon as I increase the recuperation here, like to be 3 now we're getting slower and slower and slower, although we're going downhill. Here again to be 0, keeping the speed, just let the car roll. And that does make more sense, because the effect that the car is recuperating is not that big in general. It needs a lot of time and a lot of rolling energy that this works, and the energy goes back into the energy. It's not like the most effective process if you compare it to just charging the car. But definitely an interesting system. What about driving in general? So there's the front engine, and then there are 2 electric engines for each axle. So you have the all-wheel drive then. And then again, even more strange with the Mitsubishi hybrid drive here is that the engine here is always in the 5th gear. There's no transmission for the engine, there's just the 5th gear. And that means when there's not enough energy left, the front engine first supports the loading of the battery, and then the electric drive goes to the wheels again. It's not that the front engine directly goes to the wheels at first. Only if you're driving more than 65 kilometers an hour and really hammer the throttle, then the front engine directly supports the wheels. So you can also see that in the front then. So because we got the engine symbol, the battery symbol, and the wheel symbol there. Again, it's really a complicated system, but you can just, there's something coming from the ambulance. Let's see where it's going. Okay, let's solve that first. We gotta make room. I hope you guys always pay attention to that. Yeah, there it is. And passed. It could be you needing the ambulance, so pay attention always to make room. So here, for example, I see now that just the battery is going to the wheels, and again, just at the higher speeds, then it's possible that the engine directly goes into the wheels. Other than that, the vehicle really tries to load the battery again, and the battery goes to the wheels again. Again, I think it's a little bit complicated, the system, but the engineers obviously had something in mind there. I'm not sure. But it was definitely like one of the longest part I needed to clarify how a hybrid system is working here in this vehicle. Here, for example, going down longer now, I go to this recuperation mode, and I don't have to be standing on the brakes all the time. So you see, maybe it's too much recuperation, then I can lift it a little bit to B2. So you can also adjust it pretty much. No, but now there's more needed. Then I go to B5 again, have the maximum recuperation charge. And now hitting the brakes even more, and it's a little bit more charge. But most of the time, again, I just stay in this recuperation 0 mode. Then I can just control it with the brakes and get the maximum rolling power, and yet at the same time a maximum recuperation power. Here in the middle screen you can also see some information. For example, the range is 26 kilometers that's left. Here again, what's the energy flow and so on, or the total range with about 400 kilometers together with the petrol drive. And what about the general driving characteristics? I've told you we got the new steering wheel here, and together with the new steering wheel and the upright seating position and those, well, this really huge SUV feeling we have here already in the Outlander, it really conveys a feeling of a big SUV and, you know, a grown-up SUV. And this steering wheel reminds me a little bit more of the Pajero. So the Outlander has a little bit more moved into the Pajero big SUV feeling, and I usually like that. Also, you know, long-term run is no problem. Still enough comfort left because of the high seating position and, you know, the room you have here in the front. So it's also good for longer rides, even if for the longer rides the electric drive is not the most suitable one. In general, the suspension is very soft, so it's nothing to drive really fast, you know, but this SUV is good when it's comfortable. Together with the soft suspension, silent electric drive and so on, it's perfectly fine. So even, for example, from 0 to 50, that's, you know, you can even accelerate out some sports cars with this plug-in hybrid. And I can also show you that only if this green arrow is leaving the green area and then goes to the white area, then also the engine is active. And this is just when I really hammer the throttle now. So, for example, when I'm driving like now 60 and hammer it to the end, that was still just in the hybrid. And then, just for a small second, the engine supports the battery. Now, when you're going over 65 kilometers an hour, we'll soon approach the Autobahn, then the effect will happen that the engine will also directly go to the wheels. We'll soon experience that. Sound insulation, of course, it helps that the car does usually not have the engine running. Therefore, it also seems more silent. Also, in this facelift we had, like 1.5 years ago for the Outlander, they have worked on the sound insulation, used more insulating material and stuff, and you also feel it. If you compare it to the pre-facelift model, the ride is more silent. Also, they've worked on the suspension, and it's soft, comfortable, and it's also not that sensitive to rough bumps anymore. So I'm overall satisfied with the work they've put into this vehicle. The overview is very good because we have this classic SUV layout with steep window line everywhere. It's really nice. And again, we are still running on the electric drive, and see, we've driven about 10 kilometers and the range has dropped down from 33 to 23 kilometers, so it's perfectly fine. I can also hit this eco mode button in the middle console, and that decreases the throttle input. It means when I hammer the throttle, I have to go a little bit deeper that something is happening. And that can help you save some fuel, also especially when you're just on the electric drive, because when you're not in the eco mode, you get a more direct response then. So that's really interesting. So I tend to use the eco mode that you have an even more relaxed feeling. So now 70 kilometers to 100, hammering the throttle, and let's see what happened. Did you hear it? There you also heard the engine, the normal engine. But then again, when I just let the car roll, everything is shut off. Car is just rolling again. Accelerate again, look at the symbols. And even here now, it's really interesting. Even here in this case, the engine was not directly heading to the wheels, but just to the battery. So it seems to be like when the battery has enough power still, even at the higher speeds, still the system is kept up that the engine is first delivering more power to the battery, and then the battery is going to the wheels. So I think it will rather be the case when you have less battery left, for example. Now we're on the motorway, 100 kilometers an hour. Again, just running on the battery then. That helps again to get a little bit more silent in here and don't have to raise my voice that much. Of course, the CW value is not the best as it's a huge SUV. It's like running a cupboard on the road. Let's see what about our range. Here, of course, when on the Autobahn driving just about 100 kilometers an hour here right now, that does decrease the range, but of course we're making a lot of kilometers here now as well. But overall, see, the car is tilting also at higher speeds. As I said, the suspension is rather soft, so you don't have the greatest stability then when going faster on the motorway. You have to be sure about that. Going off now, and now we can charge the car again when we hammer the brakes. Also see how the car behaves. Here you see there's a lot of tilting happening. Car feels really soft in the corner. You have to be sure about that. So it's not a sporty SUV. The electric drive here, for example, now that feels so nice. There we heard it a little bit, just a second again. The normal engine was active. You can learn that and also look at the screen where the electric drive is kind of ending its power, and then you can learn it step by step how to use the electric engine as good as possible and to just leave out the normal petrol drive. So definitely a lot to experience in this car and a lot to learn, and the longer you drive the car, the more you get along with it and the more you appreciate that you can drive on this electric drive. And you just have to see that your infrastructure fits to your everyday driving life, be it at home or at work, or maybe you have a coffee stop in between with a good charging station or whatever, but it requires some planning, but I think it's worth to do this planning, definitely. Also some more agility or slalom tests here at lower speeds. See, the steering input is not indirect. It's not the most natural feeling with the steering wheel though. and the car is a little bit wobbly, tilting. It's, it's like being in a huge SUV with a soft suspension. So some appreciate that, some want to drive sportier, then you have to go for another SUV, depending on your preference, of course. Overall, I'm really enjoying, again, this electric ride. Still got some kilometers left with the electric range. And I hope you enjoyed as well. Tell me some of your comments then about the hybrid system I've explained to you here, what you think about it. And maybe you are also using a hybrid already or plan to use some. So state us your experiences in the comments, or maybe what do you expect of a hybrid. This maximum of 45-50 kilometers of electric range. You can charge it as your household plug in about 5 hours. Here at the special loading station, which has more power, that is faster, maybe about half the time you need then for that. This is here locked at the moment, but I've registered with this special service we have here, and I just sent a text message then at the special number that is displayed on the display right here. And then it takes some time to process, and after about 15 to 20 seconds, this station here will then be unlocked. Still waiting for it. Now it says your data is being processed, and then it will also be possible to see now it opens, and then I can put in the cable, and we'll get it right now. So there it is. This is a mode 3 cable. It's a little bit different than the household plug, of course, and then put it in here. Best is to do it first, also plug it in here and then in the vehicle, and later on remove it vehicle first and then at the station. You see the cable is exactly that long that it does fit, that I don't have to park the vehicle in a transverse way or so. And then there are two possibilities here. This as far as on the DC loading for the really big stuff, for the supercharging then here, and then I'll use a smaller one that goes right in here, and then when I have put it here, it's also locked. I cannot remove it unless I close and open the car again. Then I can remove it again. So I could just leave it that way and go inside wherever, and now the vehicle is charging. In the left lower part you can also see the red cable. This is the charging symbol, then I know that it's working. And now the conclusion, Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. So it's very important that this car is existing, because it was really flattening out the ground, preparing everyone else for an SUV with a plug-in hybrid. Was the first one. And overall, it's still the cheapest big SUV with a plug-in hybrid. We'll soon see what's to come there. Well, there's some other variants, for example, Toyota RAV4, or soon also the small Kia Niro, but those are all not plug-in hybrids, and there we have one, and that's really a great thing that we have it. And I really enjoyed the electric driving, and I would always go for it. The range is of course still limited. That should be worked on for further models, but for a lot of usages it's still okay, and you tend to you just want to drive electric anymore. I think this car helps by that, and of course you have reasonable space on the inside. Overall, is of course the question if it's not better to go for a fully electric vehicle, because you either in which mode you drive, you carry the other drive system around, but that maybe maybe it's a good solution for the transition between the combustion engines and the fully electric drive. On the interior, as here the plug-in hybrid is already not that cheap anymore, I would have expected a little bit more. Mitsubishi has to step up the build quality there. However, the comfort is really nice. I can't say anything against it. And using of space is overall quite okay, besides the headroom in the rear. Driving, as I said, really relaxed and also silent. They also worked on the driving experience in the facelift, so I was pleased by that overall. And so I just will continue on driving as much electric time as possible. Thank you very much for joining this review here with us. I want to hear your feedback on exterior, interior, plug-in hybrids in general, and also to this model. What about your experiences as well? We'll see you at the next Autogefühl episodes, be it a plug-in hybrid, normal combustion engine or fully electric drive. Stay tuned here with us. Thank you very much.